guest is without doubt a true legend of the stage and screen, having worked with some amazing people, from the Pet Shop Boys through to Sir Ian McKellen and many more. Well known to us as having played the part of Madame Kovarian alongside Matt Smith's Doctor, please welcome the utterly fabulous Frances Barber. Good afternoon, Frances. How are you?
Hello. This is the new world.
Isn't it just? We were just chatting before we came on that it was November I saw you last, but that seems like a lifetime ago now.
What a different world it was. I came down to a con in Bristol, had the most lovely time, met so many fantastic fans. We all hugged each other and kissed each other and shared each other's sandwiches. I hope we return to that soon. I hope we do.
So do I. I miss hugs, I've got to be honest.
Me too. And even just handshakes. And I particularly miss hugging Doctor Who fans, because whenever I've had my photograph taken with them, they're so loving and adorable, and it's always a joy to meet them. So please let those days return as soon as possible.
As soon as we possibly can at Fantom, we will have events, and because we've tried to keep everybody really entertained throughout the lockdown. I think we've done a reasonable job of that, but there's no substitute for our sort of live events. So hopefully we'll see you at one of those very, very soon.
You ask me, I'll be there.
I know you will. You're a sweetheart. So we're going to have a little chat, which is hopefully going to keep everyone entertained for a little bit for us. I'm going to start by asking, where did it all start for you?
You mean my acting career? Oh, blimey. Well, I went to, when I was doing my A-levels, there were only 8 universities in the whole country that did English and drama as an academic subject. And one of them was Bangor in North Wales. And I applied there and I got accepted. And so I started to do a drama and English degree. And one of my alumni was Danny Boyle, who was my then boyfriend. Don't know what happened to him. And the year before us was John Sessions, or a couple of years before, I think, possibly. And then after that, life was very, very different then for women. Most of us applied to try and be stage managers. Even though it was an academic course, we did a lot of productions of our own. I directed some, I acted in some, we wrote things, we did what students are supposed to do, and we all applied to be stage managers. All the boys got accepted. Danny started at the Royal Court, but none of the girls got even replies. I mean, it was a different world. We're talking a long time ago because I'm very old. And so I then did a postgraduate course at Cardiff University, and it was there I met the director called Mike Bradwell, who was touring the country he did improvised plays, and he trained with Mike Leigh. So I cheekily asked him if I could audition for him. He allowed me to. I got the job. I was with Hull Track for 9 months. We went to the Edinburgh Festival, and we came to London at the Bush Theatre. And then, because Mike Leigh was his mentor and great friend, he came to see the show. And then I got my very first television job in a Mike Leigh improvised film with Timothy Spall, who's remained my greatest friend to this day. And I'm godmother to 2 of his children, and now I'm great godmother to one of his grandchildren. So and we've remained friends. That was in 1981, and we've remained friends ever since. And in fact, I saw him and his wife yesterday because they live near me, so we were allowed to socially distance each other, watching a recital of a wonderful violinist from the LSO, who, of course, like all of us, has nothing to do, and doing a beautiful recital in a churchyard near where we live. And it was very moving, and there we go. So that's how it started.
And was it always something that you had in your blood, do you think?
I think I probably did. My dad was a bookie, so he had a very theatrical nature. I used to go to the dog track with him, and I'd go to the horse races meetings with him, and he loved doing it. He knew how to do the tic-tac. I don't even know if they still do that now. And he had a betting shop, so he was very gregarious and surrounded by a lot of those betting pals who are all, big drinkers and big gamblers, and I found it a very exciting world. So I think I inherited some of that. And they couldn't have been more thrilled when I did decide to pursue it as a proper professional career. I'd done plays at school, and as I say, obviously at university I did, but I didn't ever think that I'd still be working now, for example. Because it's very, it's a difficult and it's a brutal profession, but I'm very, very lucky. I've been incredibly lucky.
And you do get to play some wonderful parts. And of course, you played, it's fair to say, a psychotic character of pure evil, I think, on Doctor Who, when you did arrive finally on our scene.
Well, I loved Madame Kovarian, I can't tell you. And initially, I was only really supposed to do one episode. And when we did the read-through, after we did the read-through, Stephen Moffat, I think, decided he was going to do a teaser. So if you remember, you just saw my face through a little hatch for about 5 episodes before I really came into the actual narrative storyline, just going, what is she doing to poor Karen Gillan's character, and tormenting her when she was having a baby, and I loved every second of it.
Oh, you were teased for sure. You were slowly and surely teased upon us as the eye patch lady.
I wasn't I? I know, because she didn't even have a name at that point, if you remember. It was only when she finally came into her own that she was finally given a name, Madame Kovarian. I mean, we knew that was her name, but it was the eye patch lady. Who is the eye patch lady? So no, it couldn't have been, it was like a dream come true for me. It really was.
And did they sit down with you right up front and say, this is where we're going to go with the story, with the character?
Well, I'd read the scripts, and as you know, it's very top secret, and I talked to Stephen about it, and where did we think she was going to end up. But I think Stephen wrote organically, so I think, as I say, after that first read-through, I think he then hit upon the idea of introducing her slowly and having a tease so that the audience would go, well, she must be somebody important, and she must be the foe of the Doctor. And if you remember, towards the end, I'm speaking to the Doctor on a screen, not unlike this. So on every level, they were prescient, weren't they? I mean, who knew that Stephen Moffat would know one day we were only going to be able to speak virtually to each other? So I look back on that with very fond memories now, thinking, well, I'll never complain again that it's difficult to act with a screen, because at the moment that feels as if it's the only option open to us. Well,
we're getting inventive and finding some interesting ways around it, aren't we?
We are. I mean, in fact, just before this interview with you, I was doing a Zoom play reading, I suppose you'd call it. We were rehearsing. We've done one before. We called the Lockdown Players, and there's an extraordinary cast of Robert Lindsay, Felicity Montague, Kevin Eldon, Martin Kemp, Ruby Wax. I mean, it's extraordinary. And we did another reading today. We're performing it on Sunday, this Sunday coming, on the 24th. And but my internet broke 15 minutes in. So these are the things we're just going to have to cope with, aren't we? It just froze. I was literally frozen out. And so I was desperately banging away trying to... Anyway, I got back in. So we're going to have another rehearsal tomorrow because I missed a little bit of it.
How much input did you have into the character? So how you could bring that character to life?
Well, the costume designer was fantastic, and so she discussed the way I'd look. I think in the script, it, rather casually said she wears an eye patch, and we wondered, how did she lose her eye? Was she a pirate? There are some pirates, as you remember, that come into it, so possibly she did have a sword put through her eye or whatever. And we thought about wearing the eye patch with a band. But by then, Madonna had kind of done her thing, and it was less interesting. And so the actual eye patch I wore was leather, made totally to fit my socket entirely. And I used to have to glue it on with toupee tape, they call it, which doesn't hurt because you can just whisk it off. But I was allowed to you know, to help with the costume, with the idea that it was like a sort of military, but, you know, rather sort of frightening, alluring in an older woman's way, and they were my own shoes, actually, my own high Alexander McQueen shoes. And of course, the very first time I went to a con, I didn't know, because I'd never been to one before, and I was overjoyed because there were all these girls dressed as Madame Kovarian, and even to the point that they'd replicated the shoes. I mean, with the silver straps, that was a really extraordinary thing for me to see. I was absolutely walking on water with joy. I mean, so flattered. And so, yes, and I was able to develop whatever snarling characteristic I had. And Stephen Moffat was just fantastic and joyful to work for, because he's open to all suggestions. You know, he's just a wonderful, wonderful writer and producer.
And you certainly did put a particular twist on the character. She stands out particularly to me even now, that, you know, there was definitely a presence whenever you were on the screen.
Well, as Laurence Olivier said to Dustin Hoffman, the trick to acting is, look at me, look at me. Don't look at him, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Now, I don't entirely subscribe to that, but I know where he's got it from. And for certain characters, like Kovarian, that was for sure, that was in my head. Come to me, doctor, come to me. but, you know, I was so blessed to work with Matt, who is one of my favourite doctors of all time, because he's got one of those fantastic faces where he could look 20, 12, or 200, and you totally believe him. He's got this marvellous face, those cheekbones, and of course he's the most gorgeous, adorable man in the world.
You were very lucky, actually, because the trio of the main cast at that point, it was just a really nice period in the show's history.
I felt very blessed. It was lovely. And ironically, Rory, the character of Rory, in real life, his father was one of the Fine Young Cannibals. And I, of course, worked with Roland Gift, the singer in the Fine Young Cannibals, 100 years ago, doing a film called Sammy and Rosie Get Laid, and Roland's remained a friend ever since. And when he told me who his father was, I probably knew you when you were like that big. So it felt absolutely as it should. It felt right and it felt great, but it also felt a bit frightening, because I said, I can't believe I'm that old. Oh, where did the time go?
Also, how small is the world as well? If you know, it's just, again, world just does funny things at times, and you mix in and out, and all of a sudden something from your past comes along.
I know, exactly. Well, at this moment in time, had this horrid lockdown and virus not been around, I would be in the middle of rehearsals with Stephen Moffat for his very first stage play, directed by Mott Gatiss, and starring Reece Shearsmith, Amanda Abington, and myself. And we were going to be opening in June this year at the Chichester Festival Theatre to hopefully go into town. And the play is called The Unfriend. And we've been told that hopefully, please, it will go the same time next year, when we, you know, hopefully this dreadful, dreadful situation can in some way be resolved.
We must keep our fingers crossed for that.
First stage play, and it's basically it's very Stephen and very Mark. It's based on a true story where this American woman of uncertain years, myself, goes on a cruise, meets a couple, Reece and Amanda, on a cruise ship, and she's American, and they exchange numbers. And if, like all Americans say, come and stay, the English couple say, oh yes, come and stay. But an American does. So she turns up, and we didn't really mean it. We were just being polite. And so they Google her, and they find out she's a serial killer, and she's been on the run. And so she's hiding in their house in the middle of the countryside in England. And then all kinds of various things happen. I won't give things away. But in the end, she kind of brings the family together, bizarrely, but kills a few people on the way as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful, it's like a Fado farce and a black comedy. It's very League of Gentlemen, it's very Stephen Moffat, it's very Sherlocky. The whole thing, I mean, it's fantastic. So I so want people to see it, and I know that we were sold out, you know, that, but it will happen. It will happen. We just have to have faith.
And we have all got faith. It's just about turning the corner, we think, now. So
I hope.
Fingers crossed. Did you get to spend much time in Cardiff?
Yeah, well, I was there for a year when I did the postgraduate course, and it was mainly based in the Sherman Theatre, in Roath Park. And I loved Cardiff. I absolutely loved it. I've always had an affinity with Wales. I'm from Wolverhampton originally, which we'd always go on holiday to Wales because it's not very far away. We'd go to a caravan park in Rhyl, or and my friend at the moment, I've just spoken to him on FaceTime, of course. He's just got he's locked down in the Gower, and so he's been showing me all the coastline today, and it just looks gorgeous, and the weather's amazing, because I'm stuck in a flat in the middle of London with no garden, so I envy everybody with a garden. I think it must be so wonderful. But on the other hand, I live very centrally, so I'm able to, on my walks, you know, I can go, St. Paul's is really near, the Millennium Bridge, the Globe Theatre, please let that survive. So I can walk around all these wonderful landmarks, and in fact, last week I walked to the Tower of London and met Ian McKellen. We kept our distance because he lives further east, so we met in a sort of, you know, well, he said it was equidistant. I don't think it was equidistant. He was very near, and it took me a day to recover from the walk. I've never walked that far for years. But it was gorgeous to see him. And the Tower of London, it wasn't open, but the yeomen of the guard were still walking up and down on doing their parades and tapping their sticks, which I just found extraordinary. And I said, what are you protecting? And he went, the crown jewels, of course. Stupid of me to ask. And the ravens. So that was actually beautiful. And to walk along the river. So, you know, I guess if I had a garden, I'd just sit in it. Whereas, because I don't, I do go on these long treks.
Well, you and he go back a long way, it's fair to say. And there's not many people can say on their CV that they've done King Lear with McKellen, also a panto with him as well.
Aladdin at the Old Vic many years ago, where I played Dim Sum, the Chinese sidekick, in a fat suit. I wouldn't need a fat suit at the moment. I have been eating too many biscuits to get through this. And Ian, of course, played Widow Twankey. And I'd never done a pantomime before. And it was, it was the hardest work I think I've probably ever done. I mean, it's, you know, I think we did 2 shows a day. And it was exhausting, but it was the best fun to hear the kids laugh and for people to shout out. Well, I did say to Ian the other day, actually, I mean, if we were ever to do a panto again, and please, I hope we do, not me but personally, but, you know, the acting world, we would have to say, he's 2 meters behind you. He told me that was a pathetic joke. I thought
that was really good. You've hit upon an idea here, I'm sure, already.
He said, how long did it take you to think, how long did it take you to think that up, darling? Because it's a really pathetic joke. I made it up on the minute we were talking, and I think it's clever.
Well, I'd love to see you both do panto again. I think that would be amazing.
Well, I'd love us both to be able to work again at the moment, but, you know, anyway.
And I can't let a chat with you go by without dropping Pet Shop Boys into it.
And
I just in case nobody, just in case there's some people out there that aren't aware of it, how did your association with the boys start?
So about 20 years ago, I did a musical that they wrote. The book was written by Jonathan Harvey, who wrote Beautiful Thing and Gimme, Gimme, Gimme and Coronation Street and all manner of things. Beautiful People that I was also in. And it was set in a nightclub, in a rather seedy nightclub in the gay world in London. And it was mainly about a boy coming from Northern Ireland and coming out into the big city. But the woman that was controlling the nightclub, who was the maitre d', the hostess, if you like, was my character, and she was called Billy Tricks, and she was a combination of Nico, Marianne Faithfull, every rock chick you've ever heard of, without being specific. And so she drank too much and she took too many drugs, but everybody loved her. And she kind of became the star of the show. And so for 20 years, we've been discussing, Pet Shop Boys, me and Jonathan, how we can do a one-woman show for her, because they loved her character so much. And I think it was mainly because Neil and Chris wanted to write songs throughout the genres of her life. So we think who knows how old she is? I mean, she just lies about everything. She can't even remember. But we know she was vaguely born in Berlin. She went to work with Andy Warhol in New York. So they write she believes that she gave him the idea about the Campbell's soup. So they wrote a song about soup. She believes that she helped stop the Vietnam War, so they write a song about the Vietnam War. They write a disco song when she was bigger than Donna Summer. She's like a combination of Zelig, the Woody Allen film, and Forrest Gump. She was there, she invented it, and everybody stole her style, her stories. And in fact, I start off the show in an eye patch, and I say, Madonna stole this from me. And of course, whilst I was doing it in London, where I just finished before the lockdown, Madonna was around the corner in the Palladium. And so I put in some other stuff about it, saying, the reason she keeps cancelling her shows is because she's here in the audience in disguise every night, stealing my show. And it just happened to be that she was, around the corner in the Palladium. But they wrote 6 new songs. Jonathan wrote the most fabulous script. And again, I have to say rather sadly, we'd been booked to go to New York in the autumn, and the Pet Shop Boys were doing a world tour. So they were going to finish in the Hollywood Bowl in October and then fly back to New York, and then we would open on the back of their tour. And, the fact that we had a huge hit in Edinburgh and a huge hit in London. And again, so that's on ice, but it's called Music with a K, and it's a really lovely show. It's just fun. It's an hour of escapism and fun and wonderful Pet Shop Boys music, of course.
Because you brought it back originally to the Edinburgh Film Festival initially, didn't you? And it was just, massively well received, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a 5-star hit. It was great. And so then we took it to the Leicester Square Theatre. Straight after Edinburgh, which was last year in about September, and then because that sold out, we brought it back again, and we just about missed the lockdown, so we were very lucky in terms of the timing. But hey,
we'll see it again. I'm very confident of that. And Jonathan Harvey's writing for me is sublime. I've been a massive fan of his for many, many years, particularly his stuff on Coronation Street.
He's hilarious. He's just got a genius touch, and it's all tongue in cheek. It's very wicked. It's very witty, and I've worked for Jonathan more than any other writer, actually, ever. And I would like to believe he likes writing from my voice, because we have the same sense of humor. So he'll write something down, and he knows that I'll go, you can be funnier than that. And then he will be 2 minutes later, because he's set a challenge.
You've had a proper roller coaster of a career. I think
you could call it. What would you call it? Mercurial?
I would call it fabulous, if I'm honest, because I think it's been fabulous. I mean, there's so many other things I could talk to you about. I mean, if we had another 52 hours, I mean, Psycho Bitches for me is an amazing series on so many different levels. I mean, how much fun was that?
Have you seen Mark and I play Betty Davis and I mean, it's just so ridiculous, isn't it? And there was another thing I was doing, actually, at the time we filmed that, I was doing the all-female Julius Caesar with that Philida Lloyd famously directed, that we took to New York. So I was playing Julius Caesar in the evening. And in the morning, I had to get up early, and I thought, I haven't got Betty Davis's voice. I haven't got her voice. And then I was listening to her in the car on the way to work, and I suddenly went, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's what I'll do. And I went over to Mark, who was Joan Crawford in his wheelchair, and I, what is it, young dearest? And he went, where's that voice coming from? But of course it works in that setting. And we did laugh, and wonderful Jeremy Dyson directed it. And we had a fantastic, Jeremy, I think, wrote the sketch as well. And I played, I played so many different people, Elizabeth I and Whistler's mother and Catherine the Great. And I mean, where would you get an opportunity like that? I just adored it.
We need that kind of TV to come back the other side of this, and we need to have much more of you on screen, and we need to see much more of you. And I hope that we all of the various bits and projects you're working on all come to fruition. I know you're busy right now as well, so you haven't exactly quiet and write down either coming through this.
No, I'm lucky. I did a voiceover last week for a documentary about the monarchy that I've been working on, and I've got a couple of other hopeful voiceovers coming up. And while we're doing things like this, it makes us all happy because we are worried. We don't know what's going to happen, and without theatre, TV, film, how boring would life be? We have to have this. Think how many people have been watching Netflix during this lockdown. I think they've had another 20 million subscribers or something. So there's an appetite. We need it, and we will get through it. We will. I have no doubt we will. And things might not be the same, but we're very inventive. And there are so many inventive people in our industry, as you know, that something fantastic will come out of this.
Inventive and talented. And as soon as we've got an event, you'll be top of our list to invite you to come along. And I'm sure we would love to see you, and I know the fans would love to see you as well. Frances, it has been an utter pleasure to talk to you today. Thanks very much for giving up your time. Really appreciate it. Frances Barber.
Thank you so much. And bye, everyone. Keep safe, and have hope.